Hey guys, Aaron McKenzie here from Originofenergy. This clip I'm going to go through 7 basic movements that anyone can do right now to start moving. Most important thing with any movement program is to be consistent and to get started right now if you're not moving. So these movements are very basic, anyone can do them, and you can make them harder or easier depending on your starting level. So the first movement is the squat. Now this is the base of all movement for us to get from standing to the ground. So we all need to be able to do this. Now some people find it harder than others. So there's lots of ways to make it easier. One way is to pop your hands on your knees and squat down, taking the load of your upper body weight through the arms into the legs, so that way it takes it out of the hips and makes it a lot easier through the legs. Another one is to sit down onto a box or to hold onto something as you're going down. Now, all these methods work really well to improve the actual movement and get you started. If you find that still quite difficult and challenging because of your back, your knees, whatever, then find a way to move. Another way is to do bridges on the back. So you're still using the glutes, still using the legs, and you're going from lying to driving those hips up. But in reality, you've still got to get off the floor, so you're going to be doing a squat anyway. But if you're building volume and you want to do more of it, it might be uncomfortable for you to squat to get down there, but once you're down there, you can perform X amount of reps to start building some strength in those tissues. Now, when you want to make it harder, it's very easy. You can just weight shift from leg to leg to make it heavier. You can go to one leg, is going to make it much heavier, so you don't even need to add external load to make the squat a very hard exercise that you can do at any time with no equipment. So I love the squat, I love teaching it, and depending on where you have restrictions or weakness, you just have to work within those and just let those deficits come up. So the next pattern is the lunge. So it's similar to the squat in that you're going down on that leg, the front leg's like a squat, the back leg you're going to open up that hip flexor and stretch it back. Now you might be quite tight in that hip flexor, so reaching that leg back and dropping it down to the knee, just getting the knee onto the ground is great just to open up that hip and improve the flexibility through the hip flexor. And then you pop the hand on the knees, switch the legs over and do the other side. So you may not even load the legs in the sense that your knees off the ground, it's on the ground the whole time, or your hands are on the front knee so it's completely deloaded. And then from there it's very simple, you just come up and down, work the legs, strengthen them, but you really want to make sure you're stretching and strengthening. Just like with the squat, you want to use that full range of motion, and these movements are also mobility exercises. So maintaining hip mobility with the squat, maintaining hip flexor mobility with the lunge is very important as well, to really stretch it out, tuck that butt under and get into that nice position. Now the third one is the bend. Now the bend pattern is very important, to bend down and pick things up, and it targets the hamstrings more than the squat. So hinging through the hip is very important, and you want to be able to disassociate the movement of the hip and the spine. So a lot of people wear their spine out because their hips are tight. So they overuse the lower back because they're not hinging in the hip. So learning how to do that, so that way the load goes into the bigger joint and it doesn't go into the smaller joints of the spine and wear them out. So over time you can develop the muscles in your butt, which keeps your butt firm, as opposed to wearing your back out and making life painful. So learning how to hip hinge is very important to stabilize the back, and it's not bad to round the back and to let it bend under light load. It's just if you do that under heavy load and do it too frequently and you wear the spine out, then that's not good. It's going to be very uncomfortable to go forward with that. Whereas if you learn how to use the hip better and spread the force through those bigger muscles that move the hips and into that bigger joint of the hip joint as opposed to the smaller joints of the spine, you're going to be better off. But by all means you want to be able to do both. A general rule is that if you can't do something 20 times, then it's more of a strengthening exercise, and if you're bending for reps, then you're better off keeping the hip bend and keeping the spine stable. Whereas if it's something you could do for 20 reps, then rounding the back out is going to be fine because the load that's going into the spine is low enough that it's really getting more of a postural response as opposed to a heavy strengthening response. In saying that, I still do very heavy loaded round back lifting, but my lower back and my mid back is very strong from years of conditioning. That's not something I recommend to everybody, and it's something that people need to build up to. But also my straight leg, straight back strength is, a lot more than that. It's over double the amount of strength. So there's a lot of buffer there. So after that, we're going to go into the handrail or the kitchen sink pull-up. Now this exercise is great. Anyone can do it. Everyone's got a kitchen sink or a bathroom sink, or there's a handrail somewhere that you can hold on to. So you're going to hold on, stretch right down to the bottom, stretch those lats out, stretch those hips out, pull yourself up and squeeze those shoulder blades down and back and open up the chest. Now this is very effective for strengthening that back and that nice postural alignment and stretching out the back as well. So I love it. It's simple and it's easy to use for anybody at any level. I've got an 89-year-old client who does these with me every week, and she does them at home. It's awesome. It's so simple and it can really keep the hips and the shoulders and the spine healthy. The next one is similar, just doing that push up into down dog. Now you can use the kitchen bench, and then if you're stronger, then you can go to the floor, do it on the knees and then go into that down dog, or stay on the toes the whole time. You want to learn to get really deep in that push up. And what that's going to do is stretch the chest as well as strengthen it through a full range of motion. Then you press right up out of that push up, and then you're going to stretch back and strengthen and stretch those hamstrings right out, open the shoulders right up. So very effective for doing all of that. So those are all the basic movements there that are kind of compound that you can do in kind of 2 square meters of space. Now the next one is very simple. We all need to do it, is walking. Now if walking's painful for you, then maybe walking in a pool would be a better option, or if walking is great and it's easy for you, then going to jogging or running or sprinting. But you want to have some type of rhythmical gait pattern that stimulates the body to use the left arm and the right leg, so you're getting that cross pattern. Very effective for using both sides of the brain as well as both sides of the body to stimulate a nice rhythm through the body and nice balance through the body. So that opposite arm and leg swinging stimulates our genetics to have their optimal expression. Now when we just do everything double arm, double leg, it's really unnatural. So it's very important to get that cross pattern going. Now to emphasize that again, we're going into some core conditioning. Now this is the most basic core exercise that anyone can do, and it takes you back to infant development. Now this activates all the muscles in the shoulder, the hip, the wrist, all the way through the spine. And you can just start with a 4-point position, do some belly breathing, lengthen your spine, condition the shoulders and the hips, and get some nice time under tension down there. The 4-point position is a great place to get that loading into the body without the axial loading, so without gravity bearing straight down on the spine. So sometimes standing up your back's sore, but horizontal it's okay. So this is a great position to really build up tissue tolerance, time under tension, and get those tissues healthier so that you can handle load through the structures again. Now you can progress the 4-point into a 3-point, into a 2-point, and then the 2-point you can extend the arm and the leg out, maintaining spinal stability. And again, this is that hip back, shoulder spine disassociation. So if you can move through the hip without the spine buckling, then you're learning to stabilize the spine and move through the hip. If you can move through the shoulder without the lower back or the spine buckling, then you're learning to move through the shoulder girdle and let that shoulder blade raise up over that rib cage. Both very important things to be able to do, so that way your spine is healthier. Now these 7 basic movements can be done every day, and they need to be to maintain good health of the tissues and tissue integrity throughout the body. And people can use these anywhere at any time, so there's no holding back, there's no excuses. We all need to get our body moving and keep it moving to be healthy. So get into them, work with them, work at your own range. If you want to make them harder, by all means make them harder if they're feeling good. But at the beginning, I would always leave something spare in the system. Don't force the body into high levels of fatigue. Just start out slow, The main thing is to be consistent. If you can do this stuff every day and you start to feel better, then maybe every third day you push yourself a little bit harder, but not every day. Once you're starting to load up the body, there's no need, because you need that time to recover. So for a lot of people, these movements are going to be too easy because you're already training and you're moving, and that's great. And for some people, they've drifted away from movement and it's time to get back into it. It's so important to keep moving, and it doesn't matter, you know, it's just about starting and being consistent. Get into it, get it done, make your body feel better. Don't force it too hard, don't overload the tissues, listen to the body. If it's a bit sore, do less the next day. If it's really sore, wait a couple of days, but try and move every day. And once you've got a decent foundation, then you can look at training harder and training quite hard every third day. So you've got nice recovery around the 72-hour mark, and then once your recovery starts coming up and you're getting stronger, then you can train hard every 48 hours, and then you can train hard every day. But you want to make sure that you take it step by step and just let the body respond. It should always feel good. If you overdo it, you're less likely to be consistent. So get into it. If you've got any feedback for me, let me know in the comments. If you'd like any particular videos to be made, let me know. But I'll see you soon. Get moving.